What's up, everybody? I'm Scott,
I'm Jason.
and you're listening to Liquid Carnage. What's up, my friend?
Oh, nothing much. We saw each other last weekend. I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
up in Kingman.
We got to spend some quality time, and before our EP Tom says anything, no, because of the circumstances, we did not have a chance to record our drunk history.
No, I think we just need to put it on recording right now. We just
Mm-hmm.
do a weekend where that's all we do.
Is drink?
You either come down here or I go up there, and that's all we do is we drink and record, and that's it. No
Oh,
moving houses, no Pat Tillman runs. No, it's just a booze fest.
I feel like we should meet somewhere in the middle or someplace neutral for that. That way, we're both traveling to a destination to get hammered like that and do this.
Nothing. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, meet us in Nothing, Arizona for the first annual Liquid Carnage convention. For more information, hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all at Liquid Carnage.
Oh.
If you want to know where Nothing Arizona is, hit up liquid_EP on Twitter and Instagram. See?
No, we just need to do it, Scott, because the
I
EP
know.
we're going on a year now, dude.
I know. It's been a busy year, though. It has been a very busy, a very active year. So much change has happened.
Yes.
That's the problem with life, man. It's so precious because it continues to go no matter what happens.
Yeah.
And it doesn't stand still, and you have to adjust to it. It does not adjust to you.
What's that line from Ferris Bueller? Life moves pretty fast. And if you don't stop and smell the roses, it'll pass you by.
Yeah. And you know what's funny? The older you get, the faster it goes, man. They really hit that right on the head. And you don't understand how fast a year can go until you get up into your mid-30s and whatnot. And you blink, man, it's been 5 months.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's already February. I mean, it is already February, dude. This month is already gone.
What's weird is, and I don't know if I'm the only person that feels like this, and I don't think I am because I've seen the memes. January feels like it takes forever. January feels like it's the longest month ever, even though it's 31 days, just like March, just like May, July, September, or October. You know, it's just December. It's the same amount of time, but it's just the days are still short. You don't know in Arizona, you don't know if it's going to be 60 degrees or 25 degrees. And you're coming out of the football season, so it's almost like detoxing if you're a football fan, because they're slowly trying to get you off that until the Super Bowl, and then you got to sit tight for 6 months, biding your time with basketball, hockey, and baseball.
Yeah, I think too. You know, November and December are so filled with holidays and shopping and families and going to dinners with people that once you hit January, other than Martin Luther King Day, there's really not a lot going on. And so it's kind of like, your chance to breathe. It's like a relaxing month. But that's maybe why it takes so long to get through it, because there's nothing going on.
Yeah, and maybe that's it. You're just trying to readjust to having a slower paced life, because Thanksgiving and Christmas this year were very close together, just based on the way Thanksgiving fell. So it didn't feel like we had much of a Christmas season. It felt like we had turkey and cranberries, and then just started on the race line sprinting toward Christmas. You know,
right? Yeah. So I'm in full agreement with you, and that's no excuse of why we haven't done a drunk history.
No, and quite honestly, I've been holding out, hoping that you give me a better topic than women's suffrage. So
no, I will have a different topic. We just need to schedule it where that's all we do. It's not like, oh, I've got to see a bunch of friends. Oh, I've got to move stuff out of my house. Oh, I've got to have a yard sale. We just need to do it where the only agenda item is
to drink and record,
history and recovery the next day.
All right, I'm in. I'm game.
All right, let's do it. So
we will
with the show.
On with the show. So, as you said, we had a chance to spend some time together this weekend. It was a good time. We had a lot of fun catching up, playing some games on Saturday night, having coffee on Sunday, and it's just nice to see people and whatnot. But there was a very tragic event that literally shocked the world on Sunday, and it was the sudden death of 9 people in a helicopter in Calabasas, California, and one of the people in that helicopter was Kobe Bryant and his 13-year-old daughter Gianna, which shocked the world.
Yeah. I think "shock the world" is the key phrase, because not only did it affect basketball fans, but I think it affected the widest range of emotions, from not only our country, but other countries around the world who are also basketball fans. And probably to a testament of the impact that Kobe Bryant had for basketball.
Well, I just think for our culture and our generation in total, it's funny to me. This feels like one of those moments where when someone asks, "Where were you in 2020 when you found out about Kobe Bryant passing?" You'll know where you were.
Yeah.
You know, it's
I remember exactly where I was. I was driving home, and you hit that dead space between Kingman and Phoenix where there's just a stretch of road where there's no
yeah,
wire. Well, when we finally get out, Noreen's phone was just blowing up, and she read the article saying what had happened, and I just said, no, that's impossible. That's not true. That's a joke, right? Because a lot of people
yeah,
put this crap on, and then there's like a little punchline at the end. But there's no punchline. No
yeah.
punchline.
Yeah, I was in Walmart and I got the news flash, and it was weird because you don't want to believe it. And then when something like that happens on the news, and the way our news cycle works so now is you can go to Twitter, you can go wherever to find instant updates, and you don't have accurate updates, which exacerbates the situation because you're getting just as much misinformation as real information, and it's hard to distinguish what's what until you're able to take a step back and actually see what's being confirmed by authorities and family members.
Yeah, yeah. I think you said it best. There was just, I think, a nationwide shock. I
Yeah,
mean, I remember, watching the news on Sunday night. We usually watch it just to see if anything happened over the weekend. And for the full half hour, all they talked about was Kobe Bryant. That's all they talked. There was no other story out there. Then the next day, nothing on sports radio but Kobe Bryant.
yeah.
Nothing. And I wonder why we are so shocked, why it throws our bodies off when something like this happens, a tragedy like this happens. It's like a loss of words, a loss of feeling. You're just numb to what had happened. It's not.
Is it because in this case you could say he could go by one name? If you said Kobe, you knew who it was.
Yeah.
People for years, we do this in our office. If you're going to try to throw a piece of trash in the trash can, you yell Kobe from across the room and throw it and see if you can make it. It's what it is. If you're a basketball fan of any kind, you damn well know who he is.
Well, they were doing interviews on one of the news shows I was watching, and um, they said it best. Kobe was a generation. The millennials who grew up for 20 years watching Kobe Bryant, that was their introduction to basketball.
Yeah, he's their
That
version of
was,
Jordan.
they didn't have Jordan. They had Kobe Bryant. That was their introduction to basketball.
Yeah,
And to think that many people were affected, like you said. I mean, I'd read stories that China was mourning and Europe was mourning his death, and I thought, man, I mean, people die all the time. So what I don't understand is why certain deaths shock us more than others.
and I think it is just the unexpectedness of it happening. That the shock and the surprise always makes someone take a step back. But let me ask you a question: when was the last time prior to Sunday that you took a step back and you were like, "Damn, I can't believe that was so fast and so sudden," and you're literally shook from a
Oh
past.
man, you know what? There was a stretch. Oh, it was a while ago now, but I know that there was a stretch when I heard that Robin Williams died.
Oh
That
yeah,
threw me for a loop, and I
was
remember
that 2013 or 2014?
yeah, it was a while ago. It was a
Yeah,
while ago. It was probably 14, so
yeah,
at least 6 years ago. But I remember that threw me for a loop, um, just because of how much I adore Robin Williams. Um,
yeah.
that was probably the most recent death that I can remember and said, man, like I didn't even like when Paul Walker died. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think anything of it. Maybe because I didn't have an emotional connection to Paul Walker. I mean, I'm sure
Yeah,
a lot of people who like Fast and Furious probably did, but
yeah. I think that's another case where it's a generational thing. Maybe with him, were Fast and Furious fans or just fans of movie fans that were born in the 80s, 90s, and whatnot, were used to seeing his movies, and it was shocking. The way it happened was shocking. And I think that's part of the pain is someone that I don't want to say you look up to, but you just love watching in their element, and then to have them just not be there anymore, it's
Right.
it's surreal almost.
How about for you? What can you think of in recent memory?
That was shocking like that.
Yeah.
I would say it's probably Robin Williams too. I'm a big fan of his. I've always have been.
Yeah.
I know where I was when Paul Walker passed away. That was another situation where we were sitting in a bar watching the Territorial Cup. It was right after Thanksgiving, and I got the news flash on my phone. I couldn't believe it. I thought it was fake. I thought it was a stunt for the next Fast and Furious movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when I was younger. We talked a little bit before this recording, but I remember where I was when River Phoenix died. He was 24 years old and he died of a drug overdose. But I remember being shocked at that death too.
What about Heath Ledger?
No. How about this? I was sad that he was gone, but it didn't have an impact with me. It didn't have an impact with me like Robin Williams did, where I was just visibly like, oh my gosh, he's gone too young. And I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe it's because he, like Paul Walker, they didn't play that big of a role in my life, or they didn't define a generation for me.
Yeah. In reality, though, both those guys were just really getting started with their craft and really trying to find their footing. I knew I was with Heath Ledger. I was very excited for The Dark Knight when to come out because he was the Joker. He won an Oscar for that role.
Yeah,
and I was so excited because I've been reading about those movies in Entertainment Weekly and the internet, just chomping down the bit. I was one of those guys that had the countdown, like going opening weekend regardless. I actually ended up seeing that movie with you and your ex-wife, and I was so sad to hear what happened.
Yeah,
and just I felt terrible because he had a young daughter. He had a wife that loved him dearly, and it's tragic. And in that case, it was drugs. In Robin Williams' case, it was suicide. But with Paul Walker and Kobe, they were both accidents.
Yeah,
and I think that's what's more shocking in this case. It wasn't supposed to happen. It wasn't supposed to be. That helicopter pilot has flown that area probably thousands of times.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, and Paul Walker drove that car, drove in that neighborhood probably thousands of times.
And maybe that's the difference too, is that on things like that where it's a freak accident, if they had, it's very possible that if he'd flown 30 minutes later or 30 minutes earlier, he might still be alive. Or if he decided instead of a helicopter, we'll just drive. You know what I mean? Those are the kind of things that are just make it so much more shocking. Like when John McCain died, I was sad, but I wasn't shocked. Like, I mean, we knew that he was sick. We knew that he was older. He's in his mid 80s. So when the shock is not the same as, like you said, when someone dies in a freak accident.
Yeah.
That where timing played a crucial part. If those are when you sit back and you shock. The other thing I think was shocking about Kobe is he only retired 3 years ago.
Yeah, 4 years ago.
I don't even think he's qualified for the Hall of Fame yet.
They did announce that he was going in as a first ballot Hall of Famer in 2020. So I don't know if they cut it a year short or.
Oh, okay.
And that's the other part I thought that was very interesting about all this. I don't know. I don't want to call it an immediate knee-jerk reaction, but so many people were calling for him to put him instantly in the Hall of Fame, to the entire league to retire both his number 8 and number 24, to change the Jerry West NBA logo to Kobe as a tribute. Just the immediate, I don't want to call it, like I said, I don't want to call it a knee-jerk reaction, but people trying to find ways to pay homage to him,
Yeah. Yeah, I do think that um, the, the Lakers retiring his number, they might have already done that, but
They did it. The Grammys had those numbers lit all night during the show on Sunday night in the Staples Center.
yeah. The Hey, do you I don't know if you were old enough to remember this, but do you remember when Phil Hartman died?
Yeah, I was going to my senior year of high school.
Yeah,
That was tragic.
I
His
was
wife
at
killed him.
work and I heard that he got murdered, and that was a shock
Yeah,
because of like same kind of thing. It's just a freak thing that happens, that you're not expecting or you don't want it. The other thing I find interesting when someone dies is no matter what they did in life, as soon as someone passes away, then people start remembering all the good things about them.
yeah. I've noticed that too. And that's a lot like relationships. You tend to, when you get out of a bad relationship, you just think, man, that person was such a bitch. They always did this and they did this and they thought about that to me. But as time goes on, you forget about those and you just only remember the good times. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happens here too. I mean, it happens with presidents. It happens with everyone. As time goes by, you really think that things weren't as bad as they were, and people were a lot greater than they probably were too at that point.
Now, if it's too painful, you don't have to. But do you have any personal experiences with someone that you actually knew personally who passed early?
Yeah, there's a couple. I don't, I don't like. I have a hard time with suicides.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
I do too. Yeah.
I get angry at that, so I do not go to those funerals anymore. And my mom and I have had these discussions where the funeral's not for the dead; it's for the living.
Yeah.
And I get that, but I usually don't go because I'm so angry at that person for cutting out early. There's so many other ways to handle those situations instead of just killing yourself. And I've had about 4 or 5 people throughout my lifetime that have happened like that, and I can't think of any accidents off the top of my head. People that have passed, but
My freshman
um,
year in college, there was a group of us at the dorms who became friends. But a group of about 15 guys that would hang out and
mhm.
do stuff. And it was Easter weekend, and one of the kids, his roommate, and one of our friends, so a group of 3 of them, decided to drive from Seattle to Spokane, Washington, to spend Easter with this kid's mom. She lived in Spokane. This kid was one of these kids raised by a single mother, not necessarily the wealthiest family or came from the wealthiest life, but got good grades and got a scholarship to come to Seattle U. Seattle U is a private school, very expensive.
Yeah, he was a good dude, he's a good kid.
Yeah, I mean, but he was kind of a nerdy guy. He wasn't socially, he wasn't completely the best, but he was one of our friends.
Yeah.
Anyways, they went to Easter, and on the way back, somehow the driver fell asleep at the wheel, and they had a car accident, and the 2 people in the front seat lived, but our friend who was in the back seat did not. And
Oh.
I remember we got the news that Sunday night, Easter, on their way back is when the accident happened. And just remembering he was 19 years old, same age as me. We were both freshmen. And it was my first experience realizing that life is very fragile.
Absolutely.
And when that happened, we were stunned for days. I mean, to the point where the roommate, who was actually the one driving the car, was so shook up that someone moved out of their dorm room and into the dorm room with him so that he wouldn't be alone. Um, and
Hmm.
there's something about death that we can compartmentalize, but at some point it does affect us in a shocking way from time to time. That was one of them for me.
Yeah, and I look, maybe I look at death a little bit differently, and the EP Tom might too, just based on the way we were raised. Both our parents are in EMS. Our dad was in the highway patrol for 35 years, and our mom was a flight nurse and an emergency room nurse. So they become desensitized to it. You see it enough on the roads, you see it enough in the emergency room. It bothers you, but after a while, you just learn to go numb to it. So you don't think about how it affects those around you. You can just talk about it. And it's a problem I think my mom has now, being retired even for 5 years. She doesn't know how to really distinguish anything else out in life except putting it in terms of how things go in the emergency
Oh,
room.
okay.
And I think a lot of that's just from being desensitized to everything else and having to just go to that dark place to be able to cope with some of the things that you see, like death, in some very unexpected ways. But uh, them treating death like that made it a very weird dynamic at our dinner table.
Oh,
And I think Tom would agree with this. I remember very vividly as a kid, my parents rehashing an accident they had on the North 93 on the way to Las Vegas, when it was just a 2-lane road way back when. It was a motorcycle accident. My mom was on the flight crew that day, and my dad was working the road, and he had to go, take a leak, and went out to the desert and found the helmet, and the guy's head was still in the
oh,
helmet.
yeah, yeah. Wow.
And I just remember that vivid conversation, and that sticks with you. I mean, that's been probably 25
Yeah.
years since that happened, but I'm telling the story at 38 years old, so clearly.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, you got it right there.
you know, so it affects everyone differently, and I, I don't know. I guess everyone has to find their own way to deal
Yeah,
with it, though,
I think
too.
the experience with Kobe and some of these other experiences, it just reminds me that we can't take everything for granted. Some things are, I don't want to say left up to chance, but there are some things where we have no control. Like Kobe
Yeah.
Bryant did not. I mean, I heard that he was going to a basketball game at one of his academies, his basketball academies. I can't
Mm-hmm.
imagine that he
Yeah.
woke up that morning and said, "Man, I feel like something bad could happen today." Just did his normal thing, normal motions like we always do, and how quickly it can be all gone.
Yeah. And I think that's the funny thing is we really, as a race, take death for granted. We don't realize that no matter what, it happens to us. It happens to all of us. We don't get out of this thing alive, and we don't know when it's going to happen. And we're not supposed to fall into those routines because you're supposed to live every day like it's your last one. But whatever other cliche you can throw in there. But you forget about that once you get stuck in the monotony of some things. And you're right. He just might have thought he was going to a bad day, and then maybe he's flown in a helicopter 1,000 times for that. So to him, it was no big deal. But it just takes that one little
Right.
accident to change
Yeah,
everything.
and the other thing that maybe it's different is when you're younger, you don't have a frame of reference to know people who have passed, right? And then as you get
Yeah.
older, oh, I knew this person, and then I knew this person, and then you get to my age, then you're seeing a parent die firsthand, so you're dealing with it. And then I think about Noreen's dad, who's 90. He's 90 this year,
Yeah.
and how many people he has seen pass before him. So his frame of reference makes life that much more precious because he realizes more and more of his circle of people he knows are gone.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the whole thing's crazy. It's really surreal to sit and think about and sit and talk about and actually verbalize, how it makes you feel, or how you should react to it. Because it's different for everybody. Everyone handles this differently, whether they compartmentalize it and they don't want to deal with it, or they cry until they can't cry anymore. I think there's a different emotion for 7 billion emotions for
Well, and
7
we
billion
haven't even
people.
talked about. I mean, not to get into the debate of it. I just to make a point. We have no problem if a child molester gets murdered in prison. You know what I mean? Like, I have no problem with
Yeah.
that. So there is something to be said about the death of, like, Kobe Bryant, for example. I don't know him. I mean, other than from basketball, I don't know anything about his personal life or any things to do. I think because I knew him from basketball and the effect he had on basketball, it shocked me. If there was like news stories about a prison where 3 child molesters were killed in the same week, and I don't care. You know what I mean? I like, okay,
Yeah.
So there is something to be said that the emotion that we put into the person who died might impact whether or not I cry or not for them.
Well, it's the desensitization. Did I say that right? Desensitized of the society, of the world, and it's also a case of hero worship. I mean, and I think that's the biggest thing here. That's a lot of hero worship. We're taught to look up to our idols, the guys that tell you to, the Hulk Hogan's of the '80s, to eat your vitamins, say your prayers, and work hard, and you'll be whatever you want to be. We're taught to idolize that, and when we find out our idols aren't the people they say they are, or worse, they're taken from us tragically early. It's shocking. It shakes your world. It shakes your
like no one was shocked when Muhammad Ali died, right? No,
we knew he had Parkinson's. We knew
Ali died. No one's going to be shocked when Kareem Abdul-Jabbar dies. So the age definitely plays a difference. The age of the person. But I think also because of the youth that followed Kobe Bryant, they're exposed to death at a much earlier age than maybe life should, and so their impact it impacts them more because Kobe, he's like you said, he's a hero. He's not supposed to die. He's not supposed to die at 41. So yeah,
not him. So I don't want to beat a dead horse here. So let's either start talking about something happier or we start looking at wrapping this show up. But I'm going to circle back to our drunk history coming up just to kind of put us on a lighter note. If you have a topic you want us to discuss at this Drunk History Summit, hit us up on Facebook or Twitter at Liquid Carnage. Or if you think Tom should be the moderator and we should get him up there that weekend too, go ahead and give him a prod at Twitter and Instagram at liquid_EP.
You know what? Maybe instead of a drunk history, maybe we should do a drunk debate. Tom can be the moderator and he can ask us questions that we have to debate.
Oh.
That
could be good.
We'd have to do the same amount of alcohol to make sure that it wasn't an unfair advantage.
Well, that is true. I like where your head's at with that.
Exactly. I don't know if we want Tom involved though. He might ask some questions that I don't know how to answer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if we give him some guidelines, I'm sure he'll stay within the guidelines too. I think that's fair.
Well, the house will be sold on February 18th. So my goal and my hope is that after February, that my schedule will open up a lot. So let's definitely. I mean, except for obviously April 18th, I won't be able to go to the Pat Tillman run. But other than that, it will be opened up.
Well, I only have one working weekend in March, so perhaps we can figure something out in March. Maybe catch a spring training game and do some drunk history. We'll figure it out. We got some time.
Give us plenty of ideas to do drunk history on topics on. So,
I mean, real talk though. What would we debate on?
Tom's good at asking debate questions. How about good movies? At gaslighting. We could say what movie's better, Avatar or Dance with Wolves?
Oh, yeah, exactly. I'm gonna go with Fern Gully.
Exactly.
You know why? Because they're all the same fucking movie.
A debate for a different time, my friend.
That's right.
Hey, thanks for listening, everyone. We appreciate you. That was Scott. I am Jason, and as always, if you never know quite what to say, just have yourself some liquid carnage.